How do I think motherhood has changed my relationship with myself? Probably the anxiety. Yeah, that was probably something that I really didn't expect at all. And that, yeah, that was something that, yeah, really sort of almost defined my experience, my early experiences of motherhood. Also the kind of well of like love that I just discovered inside myself is just like nothing else really mattered at this point. And you know, the overwhelming feeling of just complete and utter devotion to this like tiny thing. Motherhood has hijacked my my life. Yeah, in a way that I kind of didn't expect. You're always having like half a conversation, half a sentence, a snatch moment. You know, there's always a distraction, there's always a nappy, there's always a snack, there's always a dispute. Exhausting, messy, joyous. My words. Yeah.
So, hi Hannah. Thank you for being here today. Would you please tell me a little bit about yourself and your family?
Yeah, so I am sort of an organisation designer, and I generally work with public sector clients, so kind of doing quite like meaningful kind of client-based work. And at home, I have a husband and a little boy who's two and a bit, and we live in Tower Hamlets and in East London, and yeah, that's that's probably me in a nutshell.
I know you're part of the Lungs for Mums movement, and you recently staged or was part of a photo stunt at one of the local hospitals here in Hackney. Would you tell me a little bit more about that and about the cause and why it's important to you?
Yeah, so when I was pregnant, I'd had quite a traumatic miscarriage before I was pregnant with my son, and I kind of went on a process of trying to understand, I guess, to a degree, why that happened, if there was anything I could have done differently. You know, I probably the usual journey of kind of self-blame and doubt. And one of the things I was quite concerned about when I was pregnant with my son was the air quality. And we live in London. It's busy. There's like traffic and roads and other forms of pollution. And I was concerned about how that might be affecting the fetus. And I became aware of Mums for Lungs, which is a charity that sort of campaigns for better air quality for the whole of the UK. And the kind of two things we really care about as an organisation are diesel cars and wood burning. And they're the kind of two really significant sources of pollutant that we in the UK are, I guess, kind of that are within our control. Can't really control the pollution that's coming from, you know, chicken farms in the Netherlands or, you know, wildfires in Canada, but we can control kind of what we're emitting. And so those are the kind of two pressure points that that Mums for Lungs pursues. And they're a really like small but mighty charity. They really don't have very many employees. I think in total it's somewhere around 2 full-time employees, so spread across a couple of different roles. And then an army of volunteers who are largely mums, but not exclusively. And you know, we're united in kind of wanting better quality of air for our children and for ourselves and our communities. And I guess the reason this is important to me and kind of should be for everyone is that air pollution, like there is no safe level of air pollution. and it's really the invisible killer. Like you look at the kind of top 10 causes of death in the UK, all of them are either kind of contributed to or maybe even catalyzed by air pollution. And so we're talking about PM 2.5, PM 10, NOx, and it's a really like complicated landscape. We think about diesel cars. Diesel is bad because they produce the cars produce NOx, but they also produce PM particulate matter from their brakes. So every time a car is braking, it's like putting pollution into the air. So it's taken me a while to get my head around all of this and to understand kind of how pollution develops. And when you wake up one day and the pollution is really bad, like why is it bad on that particular day? But Mums for Lungs has given me an outlet, I think, for my anxiety, my like quite extreme anxiety around like death and like losing my child, and it's given me an outlet to kind of push that into kind of quite positive action-oriented directions. One of the things we did recently back in February was we did a photo stunt. There was like a whole bunch of us. We had representation from across the country, really, at the Royal Courts of Justice, and we were sort of petitioning the court to not allow the car manufacturers who are going to court in October as part of a class action lawsuit to hold the lawsuit, the trial in secrecy. And we really pushed for, the letter was just signed by like hundreds of people with lots of scientists and medical professionals as well. And our ask was, to not allow this to happen in secrecy. And Client Earth worked with Mums for Lungs, and there was a hearing in July, and we found out like a couple of weeks ago that we were successful. And like, hooray, these bad actors in the car industry will not be allowed to hide, and this court hearing this trial will happen in the open, which is a huge step, and an amazing thing for like such a tiny charity to have influenced so successfully. So I'm really proud to be part of Mums for Lungs, and my values very much align with the organisation and its leader Jemima and my kind of fellow volunteers. So it's been a really important outlet for me to kind of put my energy into.
Would you say your priorities about life changed since you've become a mum? Or rather, have you become more sort of environmentally conscious of things since becoming a mum?
I wouldn't say so, no. Like 10 years ago, I was the person in the office who get really frustrated at people recycling badly. I've always had a very kind of like strong kind of green sort of like anchor, I suppose. It's being cognizant of our impact on the environment has always been kind of quite primary for me, but I suppose I'm now more focused on like the immediate harms that are happening to me, to my family, rather than like the kind of abstract like ocean temperature rising. It's a bit more like focused and local and personalized, I suppose. So my priorities have shifted slightly in that regard to actually not just kind of accept that this is how things are, but I'm now like in contact with my MP regularly. I'm in contact with my counsellors, and I'm trying really hard to ensure they understand that this is important to their constituents, and so it should be important to them, because actually it really does work. Like it works, like taking those kind of small political actions, and you just need one counsellor to receive 2 or 3 emails about the same thing for them to say, this is enough for me to raise it at, this forum in the local authority. So yeah, I guess I felt that my voice wasn't big enough or significant enough before, and now I realize that actually I have to act because I have my little one to think of and to protect and look after. So yeah, but balancing that with also I have to live and not be consumed by the anxiety that the health, environmental kind of air pollution anxiety. So have to kind of go about my day to day and live the rest of my life. So yeah, I would suppose my priorities have shifted, and it's I can choose to hurt myself by the things I eat or drink or the way I live my life, but actually now have a responsibility to someone else who doesn't have the agency to make those choices or the ability to. And so he is dependent on me to ensure that he is living his is able to thrive and live his kind of best life.
You mentioned about having anxieties as regards your child. How do you manage those anxieties? Because I know anxieties can sometimes spiral, especially when you're a mum.
I never experienced anxiety before I had a baby. It just wasn't something I ever had in my happening in my brain. Stress and a bit of kind of low mood, yeah, but anxiety was just never something that I experienced. And then I found, and I think it was probably related to that miscarriage. I think that the fear of losing my precious baby just became incredibly present because he was there all the time, and I would wake up several times at night thinking he was dead. And if I woke up not being woken up by him crying and he was just sleeping, I would have this first thought would be he's died, and I'd have to go and check always. That only really got better after he was 20 months. It took a really long time for that to improve, and now it's okay. I think once we got through that kind of danger period of the first kind of 6 months or so, it got better. But even I know of people whose babies have just died in their sleep at 18 months old. So I guess just that was an ever-present fear for a long time. And I suppose I probably didn't really manage it, that particular anxiety. And maybe now my way of managing it is by taking these kind of positive actions and doing something about it, about the kind of the pollution and the risk to life. But yeah, it was something I just tolerated for a long time. And I mean, I think I probably had postpartum anxiety. But yeah, happily it got better. And, I think we're kind of past that. I suppose actually the timing probably coincided with when I started being engaged with Mums for Lungs a lot more. So maybe my anxiety just kind of found a place to go somewhere kind of more positively. Yeah, if I had another baby and I experienced that again, I think I would probably try and get some kind of talking therapy or something to help, because it was a really awful, way to experience life every day.
Following on from that, do you think there is enough support for new mums who are going through similar things that you faced when you first had your baby?
I don't think I explored the system well enough to know definitively if there is or is not. I had a really good network of kind of fellow mums as part of my antenatal group. and we'll still get together quite often, and I felt that to be like quite a safe and supportive space. But I know like lots of mums who haven't had that, and that's been quite hard. And I wonder actually if if I were to have another baby, which is like all to play for at this point, whether or not I would have that network again, because obviously you don't kind of go through that kind of antenatal class in the same way the second time round. So yeah, I don't think I really explored the system well enough. Certainly the GP, when you have that, like my 6-week check was a phone call, it wasn't even in person. So I'm not sure that the kind of health system is quite set up. Whether or not it would have been a phone call if I'd have had a C-section, I don't know. Because you'd have thought they maybe want to have checked some scarring, how the scar was healing and stuff. But yeah, it was a surprise to me that it was a phone call, because surely that's how can you tell on the phone whether or not a mum is like coping, a new mum as well. But yeah, certainly my antenatal group and my like going to different classes was quite helpful. Like baby massage and sensory class, and we did sing and sign, which was excellent. And those forums as well were quite sort of informally supportive as well. Yeah.
What do you think surprised you most about becoming a mum?
Probably the anxiety. Yeah, that was probably something that I really didn't expect at all. And that was something that really sort of almost defined my experience, my early experiences of motherhood. Also the kind of well of like love that I just discovered inside myself is just like nothing else really mattered at this point. And the overwhelming feeling of just complete and utter devotion to this like tiny thing. And I still feel like that, even though he's like a rambunctious, energetic toddler. I still just absolutely adore him. He's just, the like light of my life. But he was a really trouble-free baby. We had a bit of colic in the beginning, but he slept like a dream. We put in some good, I think, controls around sleep early on, and he slept through kind of 10 p.m. to 5, 6ish, and at like 10 weeks old. So he was a superstar sleeper, and so I wasn't underslept like some mums are. Although I have to say the anxiety like was a very regular awakener for me. But yeah, and his weight's always been great. He's always eaten with a great appetite. Like sleep has been grand. He's pretty normally behaved. So yeah, no real adversity that we've had to overcome, I think, with him. So that probably helps.
So the anxiety that you've talked about, do you think that has had a lasting effect on your mental health?
I don't know if it maybe is too early to say. I think there's maybe a different angle there around kind of motherhood and mental health. Something that really did surprise me, especially as he's gotten older, is how I've really struggled to feel connected in social situations when he's there. So, if we're in a park or a playground, soft play, whatever, you name it, even if he's totally capable of like navigating around that area, that environment, I am always kind of, I always have at least half my brain like on him, because it could be that he's interacting with another child that, maybe I need to keep an eye on. There's kind of snatching of toys, or, behavior that maybe just needs a bit of intervention. And so I found being present and able to engage with the other adults in that environment actually really challenging, to the extent where I almost feel like there's like this, the kind of sort of veil of depression where you're sort of like in this kind of fogginess, and you kind of are experiencing life, but you can't be like truly present. It almost feels like that sort of, you're kind of always on the surface. It's very difficult to get underneath, and engage in a way that is kind of deep and meaningful. You're always having like half a conversation, half a sentence, a snatch moment. There's always a distraction, there's always a nappy, there's always a snack, there's always a dispute. And so I find my ability to kind of connect with society, I suppose, when I'm with him is like hugely hampered. And so, I go to work, I work, I enjoy work, I connect with my colleagues. I spend time at home with my family. And then we spend time out of the house together, often as a family. And so I guess I'm sort of struggling with finding those moments for like deeper connection with anyone beyond my partner, unless I have a moment in the diary to go out for dinner with a friend. Because actually, if we have a friend over for dinner, then usually they'll come over before bedtime, and then there's kind of the little one is present in that moment, and then goes to bed, and then we're cooking dinner, and there's distraction, and there's, do you need another drink, and all the doorbell's gone. It's just really hard to be like, to feel like I'm myself almost. To feel truly engaged and like give something my whole attention. I find that really, I think, limits my ability to enjoy non-work time, with my family, which is a real, I hope that gets better. But it really, like, I think it impacts my enjoyment of like weekends.
So do you feel then a little bit like motherhood has sort of hijacked you as an entity, has completely overtaken over your life, or taken over your life?
Motherhood has hijacked my life. In a way that I kind of didn't expect. I knew that we'd be orienting around like the toddler, the baby, the toddler. I knew that we would kind of like be spending time in the playground and be going to parties and whatever else. But I guess I just didn't expect to feel so disconnected from the rest of the adults in my life. Unfortunately, I have like regular evening alone time with my husband, and okay, we might be like exhausted at the end of the day and just like vegetating on the sofa, but at least we're able to connect without our son around. It's hard though. It's hard because I feel like I feel like I've like definitely lost the work me is still there. The work me exists because that hasn't really had to change. But the the non-work me, the like social weekend Hannah is diminished quite substantially. But then I guess I've got this other role of like being a mother, which is kind of, primary. And so I guess maybe that's it. There's had to be some room made. Hmm.
Do you consider your role as a mother to be primary? Does that come
as
before?
as part of my identity?
Yeah. Does that come before everything else?
Come before everything else. Yeah, I would say so. If something happened to work, if at the same time all the like balloons popped of like, my parents' ill health, something going wrong with my husband, something going wrong with work, and my son not being well, for example, he would be the one that would take priority over everyone else. In the main, I'm just thinking, we both had a tummy bug, like D&V or something like that, and my husband was fine, and we called 111, and it was determined that maybe he should go to A&E, and so the two of them went to I was like, I can't leave the house. As much as I want to be there, I just can't leave the house right now. So the two of them went, and it was fine. So I mean, I say that, but in practice, I mean, I guess it depends what it is. Yeah. But yeah, I would say I am primarily, a mother at this point. But I'm okay taking that hat off and putting my like work hat on and being there for my colleagues, for my clients, picking up the slack when other people can't. Being in the room and leading that conversation. I'm okay with that, and putting my phone on silent, and there'll be other people that can pick up the slack if I'm not available. I'm okay with that as well. But I guess being present when we're at home, or when there's no nursery and there's no work and we're together, I want to be present for my son, and that means giving him my attention, not being on my phone, not being distracted. But then there are some times when I just do have to cook the dinner, and it just you just do have to get on with that stuff, and that's okay as well. That's yeah.
What would you say you miss the most about pre-mum Hannah?
Oh, I miss having time for myself. I don't have any time for myself, really. I give a lot of I just don't know how normal people carve out like time. Like, how do mums carve out time for themselves? Like, even like working out, I started running again after I had my baby, and gave myself a hernia because I had diastasis and my gap hadn't closed sufficiently. Although it was very, very small, what was left, but still enough for a hernia, it seems. And so I feel like almost a bit terrified to start doing that again, or even start going to the gym, because I just can't go through that hernia kind of repair and recovery again. So that has kind of I guess inhibited my progress around getting fit again, and even like going to the shops to buy a new pair of shoes, because I actually do need a new pair of shoes. like finding the time to do that kind of stuff is really difficult, because it's, if you're working, you have to do that in your family time, and so you're compromising your family time to go and meet those needs. So my mother-in-law is coming to visit soon for a few weeks, and I don't work Fridays, and I'm gonna swap my non-working day, and she can have the little one, and I'm gonna take my non-working day and do things for me for a week or two, which I'm looking forward to, because I just don't really like have that. Yeah, I feel like I give a lot, and I'm not sure the same is true for dads in the same way, and not to speak, generally of all dads, but I've obviously got a dad, and I've experienced dads, and I've got a partner who's a dad, and I just don't see dads giving in the same way that mums do. Even if you kind of split your responsibilities like fairly evenly, broadly, there still seems to be, this kind of mental load that's just carried by women, that dads just seem to manage not to have to carry. And I don't know if it's a choice, or if it's just being completely oblivious to the mental load that has to be carried. Yeah, and that's a thing that I'd like to shift more, but I don't really know how. But when we've got something to do, for example, if we're going on a trip and we have to pack, I do kind of get a Kanban board up on the kitchen and have, to do, doing, done, and assign responsibility to me or him. So we have a visual indicator of what needs doing and who's not pulling their weight. And that helps. But I find it's more the kind of just the day-to-day load, which is difficult to shift.
What is at the top of your load, do you think? What sort of preoccupies you and worries you the most?
Oh, I don't even know if there's one thing. It's just the magnitude of stuff, right? It's thinking about, is he getting the right kind of food and enough of it? You know, who's buying that birthday present? It's always me. But have we bought that birthday present? Right now, I've got my brother, my sister, and my mum all have their birthdays in August. My best friend is turning 40 in August, and another best friend of mine has twins who are also born in August. And so that is a lot of organising. And we have a holiday that we've got coming up, my mother-in-law visiting. I said to my husband today, what else do we need to do before Daddy arrives, and there's nursery room, going up into the next kind of leaving the kind of baby nursery space into going up into the kind of the big kids. There's all of that to deal with. And that transition, we've got potty training we need to get done. I spent some time this weekend doing some decorating. I'm going to get some new cushions for our armchairs. We need to choose a fabric for. Is there anything to eat? Did I hang out that laundry I put on this morning? Are there enough clean clothes in the nursery bag tomorrow? Yeah, all these things. It's just, and maybe that's just life. I don't know, but I'm not sure that my husband worries about or even thinks about those things. I think it's like, oh, I'll put on a load of washing, I guess. It's not like a thought process to get there. So yeah, right now the birthday presents are preoccupying me because I just don't know what to buy for most people. Maybe a voucher would be the easiest thing. But yeah, so just the volume of mental load, and it ebbs and flows with the kind of changing seasons and the responsibilities, but every day there's something, right? There's always something that you've got to get on top of, and at one point it might move to the top of your list. I find lists quite useful to organize my thoughts.
Do you think that's the sort of lesser mental load? Do you think that's the main difference between you and your husband in terms of being a parent? He's got fewer things to worry about, or does worry about.
He definitely worries less. He's like way more chilled out than I am. He's really tolerant of my like anxieties, and he really is accepting of me feeling like worrying and feeling anxious about various things. But yeah, he definitely has much less worry going on in his brain than mine. He probably worries about different things, like, will we have enough money in our pension? And those are things I don't really worry about. So he worries about different things for sure. And are his parents okay? And because they're older than my parents, and I don't worry about that because my parents will be grand. Um, and yeah. So I think he definitely has less worry. He definitely manages what worry he does have in a different way to me, and I think that probably makes him a bit more like balanced. But I do wonder if I didn't worry about the things on my kind of mental worry list, and take action. It's not just kind of a actionless worry. It's I do things to address the worry. I I wonder if anyone would think about it, and maybe it would be fine, but also maybe it wouldn't be. I don't know. I always think of that quote, like, I'd rather have a happy home than a tidy home. I just think, oh, can't I have both? But yeah, he definitely worries less, and he's definitely better able to manage whatever worry he does have.
Do you think there's a fear that you have that if you don't carry that mental load, the house of cards will magically sort of disintegrate? Is that a fear that we as mothers have, maybe? A fear that you have?
I think I put pressure on myself for things to be done the right way, for it's not about like a presentation thing. It's about actually, like, I actually want my son not to watch TV. Like, it's not about like how we present to the outside world. It's about the reality, I think. So do I think the house of cards would fall down? Probably not. The washing might back up a bit. And there might be, someone doesn't have any pajamas, that kind of situation. But I don't think, I mean, I actually know that the house of cards wouldn't fall down. I mean, I have been away on trips and have gone for, like 4 days, 5 days or whatever, and had a lovely time on my own. That's happened twice, like a long weekend away with friends. And it was great both times. But they survived. They had enough food. They ate. They were washed and they went to bed at probably a reasonable time. So, yeah, the house of cards didn't fall down. And that was actually quite a good test for me to experiment, like leaving them to it. And the second time, which was last month, I was really really busy with other stuff before I went, and I just didn't have time to you know slow cook anything and stick it in the fridge for them. So they really were on their own food wise, and it was fine. I don't think I am innately worried about the house of cards falling down. I just want things to be done and to be done properly. And I think I probably hold myself to a slightly higher standard than I probably need to. With some things, yeah, not everything.
Do you find it easy to take your mum hat off when you are physically away from your son?
Yeah, because I'm doing that with work a lot. So at least a couple of days a week, I'm in the office or clients, and yeah, I definitely focus on the work rather than my maternal responsibilities. Um, but I do think about him, and I love getting the nursery update like halfway through the afternoon to see what they've been up to and their photos and stuff. But yeah, I think I'm able to compartmentalize that and say, that's me as a mum versus right now I need to be in work mode. Yeah, I think also I only work 4 days a week, so I kind of have to be focused in that time to get through the work and to make sure that I'm meeting whatever kind of expectations and deadlines there are. Yeah.
What's a strength you've discovered in yourself since becoming a mum that you didn't know you had, maybe?
Well, I'm physically very strong now because I've got a 15-kilo baby. So I'm physically, much stronger than I was. Went through quite a painful time, developing that strength. What's a strength that I have? I think I have discovered that I am, in fact, very patient, and kind of tolerant of the things that get thrown your way when you're a mum to a young child. And yeah, I maybe didn't know that I had that in myself. But I'm glad that I'm like that. I mean, it's probably quite a good quality to have as a mother, to be kind of patient and tolerant. So yeah, I just didn't realize that there was this well of tolerance that could be tested quite quite heavily and sort of remained there. Yeah.
How do you think motherhood has changed your relationship with yourself?
Oh, how do I think motherhood has changed my relationship with myself? I don't know. How do you think it's changed your relationship with yourself?
I think it taught me self-love and self-acceptance.
That's nice. Yeah. I think maybe it's taught me that I think there's one thing to know you can rely on yourself when it's just you, but to know that you can show up and provide for someone else as well, and be there for them when they need you, and kind of meet their needs, and like keep the house of cards in order for someone else as well as yourself. I think that's something that I didn't know that I could do, and you hope, I guess. And what else? I think it's probably taught me to trust my instincts. I would say, my like spidey sense has proven to be quite reliable in terms of particularly like health things. If I think something's not quite right, then usually I'm right. And I haven't seen that skill in my partner, so I'm not sure that he has that. Or maybe it's just like a tuning thing. But yeah, so I would say, yeah, that's taught me that I'm definitely able to be like very tuned into my child, and use that to meet their needs kind of better. Yeah.
What would you say has been the toughest, or one of the toughest, one of the most joyous moments of motherhood for you so far?
I mean, for sure, the birth was like unbelievably awful. Thanks, Homerton. Yeah, that was particularly awful. And I mean, people say you either have a bad pregnancy, a bad birth, or a bad, like, first 4 or 6 weeks or whatever. I definitely got the bad birth card. So yeah, that was like extremely traumatic and unexpected. And yeah, I had to be induced, and there was, forceps delivery and episiotomy and tear and giving birth with 8 people in the room and stuff. It was like awful. And all of that was most of it was out of my control. So that was 100% the lowest of low points, and it has all been much better since then. To the point where if we were to ever have another one, and they said you need to have an induction, which I've got a 50-50 chance of having because I had cholestasis, which is like a liver sort of malfunction. I would say absolutely not. Thank you very much. Stick me on the cesarean list. Which is I wouldn't want to do that, but there's just no way I would take an induction a second time around. It was just horrendous. Greatest moment of joy. A little while ago, we had a picture frame that had recently been put up, and it fell off the wall basically, and the glass broke. And I saw it, and I said, "Wait there, just be a good boy and just stay there." And he was so good, and he just waited by our bed for it was like 10 minutes. It took me and my husband to clear it up. And then after that, I took him downstairs and I put him in his high chair for a snack. And he looked at me and he said, "I'm proud of you." And it just made my heart melt so much because I don't know if he was. I think he was saying, "I'm proud of you because you dealt with that mess really well and you cleared it up." But it was just so funny. It was like he wanted to test out a new phrase, and so that was so sweet and unexpected. And it just filled me with joy. And I've retold that story about 10 times. And he's just going through a phase of like saying really, really cute like little things at the moment. So that's probably one of the really, really kind of happy moments unexpectedly.
What do you wish you knew about motherhood or being a mum before you became one?
I wish I had known like the reality of the toll it would take on my romantic relationship, because I don't know, you kind of enter into this like phase of life, kind of thinking, oh, we, want to do this together and build this family and all best intentions, and actually it's like so easy to kind of just like have this drifting apart, and particularly when you're in that first year and it's really hard, and um you're healing in like lots of different ways, and you're kind of figuring out how to deal with this like new little thing, and meet their needs, and making sure you're doing everything you need to be doing for them, um, and then you kind of look around and you're like, oh yeah, I also got this marriage that I need to like take care of, um, and invest time in, and it doesn't just happen. You do need to be like cognizant of the toll that this new normal is taking, and you need to take, if you want to figure it out, you need to take some action and make some changes, and um, yeah, I just hadn't, I guess, appreciated how incredibly impactful having a baby would be, in that way. And I think, you know, as time goes on, things just settle down and normalize, and I think it's easier to kind of find your way back together again. But it's taken some time, and we're not blessed with having like family support. Half our family live a very long way away in Canada, and other half of our family are here, but not nearby, and not especially like present and hands on. And so day to day, week to week, like we're on our own, and like that takes a toll, and we're 2 years in, and we've had one night away on our own, and that's more than like some couples get in 10 years, right? But yeah, I think not having that support and that help is like really significant, and I think for families that do get that, they really should like count their lucky stars, because it's like I imagine it is a total game changer on the relationship front. So yeah, I wish I'd known that, and I'm not sure if we'd have done anything differently, or if we could have prepared better for that. But um, maybe it would have been, maybe we could have given each other a bit more like kind of grace and patience to kind of let that sort of situation play out a bit before um, really like kind of sounding the alarm of like, this is really hard and we're struggling, and we need to find those like time opportunities and times for connection, and making that investment in each other again. um, but I also just think it's just like a process of adaptation, right? And growth, and change, and everyone goes on the same kind of change curve when any change happens in life, and um, yeah, the life isn't easy, and there's always going to be stuff that life throws at you. But I mean, we certainly chose to have a baby together, and that was like a conscious thing we wanted to do, and we wanted to do it with each other, and so we made that commitment to each other and to our family, and we're like really happy we did. And but yeah, it doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen. You got to make it happen. Yeah.
And lastly, describe your experience of motherhood in 3 words.
Exhausting, messy, joyous. Those are my words. Yeah. It's all of those things. It is exhausting every day. There were periods of time which I found more exhausting, like because he's so heavy. The When I was still carrying him around a lot, I like physically that was exhausting for me. And like I had like a wrist strain, which meant it was quite painful sometimes, like while that was healing. And now I don't carry him really very much at all. He'll have a cuddle sometimes, but like he'll go up and down the stairs on his own and stuff. But yeah, it's exhausting, like mentally, physically, emotionally. The tantrums are the worst. I try to just allow that to happen, but it can be, yeah, an exhausting thing to go through. And on Fridays when I'm on my own with him, it's like some days it'd be like 9 a.m. and I'm still haven't had a coffee, and we've been through like 2 tantrums already, and I'm like, oh. And but most of the time it's great, and so it's joyous, and like every single day my cup is filled up with the like fun and happiness that this like baby gives me. But it's also messy in so many ways, weaning and food being everywhere on the floor, and the clothes that come home from nursery, and the kind of messiness in your relationship, and the messiness of your like chaotic social life, and your home. So yeah, I would say those are my 3 words.